Oil, shipping, flights, disruptions are back as US-Iran war reignites. That's the headline that's been trending on newsfeed after a new flare-up in the Middle East. The past week has seen a surge in hostile military actions, with American warplanes striking more than a few hundred targets in Iran, and Iranian forces reopening attacks on merchant vessels and allied troops in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump has recently reinstated a naval blockade on Iranian ports, a move that analysts predict could cause deeper shocks to global markets than the brief blockade earlier this year. The fallout is spilling over into three key sectors: energy, shipping, and air travel. First, let's talk oil. Brent crude, the international benchmark, climbed to around $87 a barrel on Tuesday after news of the blockade. The price remained high, reflecting growing fear of supply disruptions. The U.S. had even floated a plan to charge a 20% fee on cargo passing through the strait, a measure that would have doubled shipping costs along that critical corridor. That proposal was later scrapped, adding another layer of uncertainty. Shipping experts warned that a precedent of monetizing waterways threatens the principle of freedom of navigation that has underpinned global trade for decades. Roughly 20% of all oil shipments used to go through the strait before the conflict, and now oil-exporting countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait are scrambling to build new pipelines or expand existing ones, a costly and time-consuming endeavor that offers no rapid fix. The U.S. found itself in the least desirable position when it comes to domestic stocks. U.S. oil reserves have fallen to their lowest level since 1983, and commercial inventories are also dwindling. China, the world's biggest oil importer, has recently cut its imports, which helped blunt the spike in pricing for Nojebnis, but a sudden reversal toward higher demand could still send prices upward again. Add to that the fact that beyond crude, the strait is a major feeder for fertilizer, bulk goods, and a variety of other cargo, a disruption there could ripple through dozens of industries. Shipping companies are already feeling the strain. Freight rates are higher now than a year ago, and those added expenses are jeopardizing anything that travels from the Persian Gulf to global markets. Logistics firms are rerouting goods, furniture, electronics shimmering from Asia, food shipped by rail and truck instead of the strait, adding both cost and complexity. For the average consumer, this often means higher prices on everyday goods. The International Monetary Fund raised its 2026 inflation forecast to 4.7%, up from 4.1%, citing higher energy, metal, fertilizer, and food costs, many of which are tied to the current instability at sea. And then there's air travel. Although the article doesn't specify airline flight schedules in detail, the steep rise in fuel prices and the heightened uncertainty over Middle Eastern flight paths have forced airlines to increase ticket prices and adjust routes. The strain on air freight, compounded by inefficiencies in sea and ground transport, has a cascading effect on the cost of everything from jet fuel to the monthly travel plan you subscribe to. In short, and if you're a consumer or a business owner, the higher cost of oil translates into higher fuel prices for your truck, bus, or plane, a sharper freight cost per ton, and eventually a higher price tag on the products you buy. For global markets, every blip at the strait forces a ripple across supply chains that has a knock-on effect on inflation forecasts and macroeconomic policy. As the military engagement escalates and diplomatic efforts prove slow, the risk of prolonged disruptions is high. The reintroduction of hostilities in key maritime choke points, coupled with the faltering U.S. reserves, means that the economic teething may be a while long before it eases. Keep listening for updates on how these tensions ripple through energy prices and the pulse of the global economy. Until next refurbished, stay informed, stay cautious, and stay tuned. Goodbye for now.